Chris Duffin, man. It's an honor to have you on the Man of War podcast. We started to talk a little bit before we kicked this off, and you're a fascinating dude. You have a great story behind you, and we want to dig in, man. We want to get to know who you are. We want to get to know how you have that mentality, that perseverance in your life. So, to start with, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, so Chris Duffin, a lot of people know me in the strength world. I'm the only person in history that's squatted and deadlifted 1,000 pounds for reps, and but for the most part, I'm an inventor of products that improve biomechanics. I work with like 90% of professional sports teams in any college you can think of, and that's the space I live in today. I'm also a best-selling author. I own multiple companies, all surrounding this aspect of, I call it living better through strength, but they're focused on the physical nature of things because that is really important in the world, that you have that, but we can't forget the other aspects. And that's why I wrote my book, is to touch on those other pieces around mental, emotional, or even spiritual strength. But my passion is just helping people understand that the struggles, the challenges, the things that come at you in life, they're what make us stronger. They make us more resilient and prepared for the future. And if you go to the gym and you do some curls, what happens? Your arm grows, you get a little stronger. You break your arm and you put it in a cast. That's the same thing as trying to avoid conflict in life. trying
For sure.
to find the easy way out. What happens? Atrophy, fucking death. That is the process that starts. So I've got a good story about my life. I can share a lot of these philosophies that make sense because I've had an interesting scope over the course of the last 44 years.
Good. So we're going to dig into that for sure. So what I want to know mentally here, when we talk about where you are in your life, and you've done a lot of things, and we'll get into your childhood and then kind of how you overcame a lot of things out there. And I want to dig deep into that. But as we stand today, do you think that based on that past experience of your life, you're a better man for it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't be who I was. A lot of people ask me, what it was like growing up in the experiences that I had, and whether I wished I wouldn't have gone through that. And I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
Awesome. That's great to hear. It's because I'm constantly talking about men who rest on their laurels, and basically you look at them today and they're, oh, I did this in the past, I did that, but they're not transformed for the better today. They're
I
unfortunately they're crap.
20 end of 2014, beginning of 2015, I looked at my life. I'd gone from growing up homeless to being this turnaround executive. I'd come in and take over an aerospace manufacturing company or an automotive manufacturing company, turn them around, get them prepped and sold, come in, grow something from a regional to a national or international presence. I had a house with a white picket fence, a couple kids, was married, and had my hobbies. And I was competing, at the pinnacle of my powerlifting career. And I looked around one day and I said, am I happy? And I said, I'm not happy. I'm living the American dream, but whose dream is it? It's not mine. And I said, I don't have passion in my marriage. I love leading people and helping them grow and become, more, but I could do so much more.
Mm.
And I said, what am I doing with my lifting? It's just, it's a personal thing. And I walked away from all those big things in my life. People said I was fucking crazy. And I went out and said, I'm going to change people. I'm going to help them get out of pain and live a better quality of life. And in a matter of a few years, I built a large, globally recognized brand. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I ran other people's companies, and I started in my garage and built a multi-million-dollar business. I ended up walking away from my marriage, which was an incredibly hard thing to do, but did it in a positive manner, have a great relationship with my ex-wife. I bought her a house just 5 minutes away, and remarried, have like incredible passion and shared vision and values with this woman, and have my third child. And I walked away from, I was ranked number one in the world for 8 years straight for powerlifting, walked away from it. and started creating these exhibition lifts to raise money for charities for things that I believe in, and just like pushing the envelope for what I thought was humanly possible by creating these other experiences and doing things that people thought. I mean, there's a documentary movie being filmed that's going to come out later this year about what I did, because it's just so crazy over the top. And yeah, I was sitting there. You said rested on your laurels. I could have just rode life out, man. I I was making good money. I had everything that everybody
Right.
says that you need to work for, and I'm like, it's not what I
Awesome.
want. It's not the way I want to be living.
Awesome. So you felt that need to serve like a warrior, right? A warriors serve, man. They serve for a higher purpose, for a higher calling, and you just felt that in your gut that you needed to do something much deeper.
It's been kind of the way of my life. I mean, even when I was as a teen, when I started, by 19 years old, I ended up taking custody of my three younger sisters one at a time and raising all of them while I put myself through college and was working full time and doing just to get them out of the environment. Like I've always been there. And like I said, it was weird too. When I moved into, I talked about the leadership roles I had. I was this quiet, introverted kid. I'm not like articulate. I'm far from polished. I'm not none
Hmm.
of those things. I found that I fell into these leadership roles and performed really well. But I wanted to, I wanted people to accomplish more in life, and I was authentic about it, and I'd connect with people, and that's how I freaking brought about, cultural change within organizations and complete turnarounds and all this stuff. It's not some freaking fancy business plan and this restructuring plan. Like, you've got to really bring some fundamental change to the people that are there and create some alignment and some vision and just help in that process. And man, that's what I love about coaching and stuff too. It's sure, it's great to do big things and accomplish them, but when you help people like step into the place of fear, the place of unknown where they don't know, and see them come out the other side, and you see them start that confidence, that engagement in their life. I mean, that's just so powerful when you see that impact and start seeing what they
Without
do
a
with the
doubt.
rest of their life.
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing else like it.
Without a doubt, without it. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more than, when you impact somebody's life and all of a sudden you see them grow and prosper and do things that maybe they weren't able to do before because of your guidance, just a little bit of guidance, man, it changes everything, your perspective in life. I love that. That's very powerful without a doubt. Let's dive into, you know, um, your struggles in your life. Let's get into
Yeah.
your story.
So I grew up in the wilderness in Northern California, and my parents, they're really smart, but just didn't fit with society, had their reasons not to be there. And this is covered in my book, The Eagle and the Dragon. And they made a choice. And when you're living on the outskirts of society, people don't really necessarily realize what it's like and the other people and the dangers that are represented there. But imagine 6 years old, you're living in the woods, you've got beams strapped up into the trees because there's rattlesnake dens, and that's where you're sleeping, and you're being taught how to capture and handle live rattlesnakes. It's 6 years old,
Crazy.
sitting there looking at it wrap around your arm, staring you in the face, and you're staring death in the face.
Mhm.
And these are lessons I learned really on, that like fear is something you have to control but not be reckless. You can't be carefree, but you must respect it, but you must control it,
True.
because if you don't, death is right there, right? And filling up jugs of water down in the stream, setting them out on rocks to heat up so you can bathe. And
Mhm.
that's the type of environment I grew up in. And there was some there's some wild things that happened. I mean, there's stories of dealing with murderers, lots of drug and alcohol abuse, drug running. I mean, that's what my parents did. They were growing weed, back in Northern California in the
Mhm.
70s and 80s, right? It's how you make a living when you don't
Uh,
don't want to be part of society. And there's people running around with machine guns in the woods back there in those days. It was a different time, and there was a serial killer. There was, unfortunately, there was human trafficking, and that affected the family, and so some pretty nasty stuff. Uh, Me, my three sisters, and my brother were all taken by the state for a while, and parents finally decided to get clean of the drug trade.
mhm,
Moved up to Oregon and
mhm,
took us back, and we quickly fell back into the same thing because they just, again, my mom was just wanted to forge a life away from the world. So
mhm.
we were out mining, logging, mostly mining, and fell right back into it. And that's, there's got to be some way out of that for myself. I mean, I was really well read. That was our thing, was the library. You just go and get stacks of book and read by candlelight or flashlight and just absorb every bit of information. And obviously Physicality was just huge for me. I mean, you're packing rocks on a, giant sack straight up the side of a hill, hands and knees. And just like, I've worked from a childhood on. And so when it came to getting it done, I got it done. And I went, got myself, pretty good at athletics, but I ended up getting a full ride academic scholarship and went to school for a dual engineering degree, and kind of didn't contact home for a little bit because it was easier. I mean, when I was growing up and I was working, I'd wake up in the morning and my mom would be rifling through my clothes, pulling my money that I'd earned out to go
Sure.
buy beer and whatever. And anytime I'd call home, same thing, needed parents. It was the opposite relationship. I'm in school, but I'm providing
Right,
money
right, right.
to back home for food and whatever. And so
Without a
I
doubt.
limited my contact. And then it was a year and a half in, maybe 2 years into college, I realized things had gone like really bad at home, and just couldn't let it continue the way it was. So I had three younger sisters, and I ended up starting to take custody of them, and I raised all of them through their teenage years, up till I think I was close to 30 years old by the time I was done. The last one was out and on her own.
Wow.
And so that was I did all that while I was chasing my career and lifting weights, and that's been with me the whole time. And that was my upbringing. And so I learned a lot of lessons in that time period about just focusing on just one foot in front of the next every day, making sure you know where you want to go. And we get so sidetracked in this world about with all the activities and things that we, little TV, friends, have some drinks here, or you get busy and you got all these checklists of stuff that you think that you need to get done because you're not moving somewhere, and you're doing all this stuff, but you've never actually, a month goes by, 3 months goes by. I watch people have this, 6 months goes by, and they've never actually even moved that one step towards the thing that they really want to be and really want to go, or even not even know what that is, where to go. Right. And so I learned a lot of this stuff early on.
Let's backtrack a little bit here. So, do you think that your mindset now was built during that time that you were struggling and that you were basically just, developing as a young man? And because perseverance, you can't just have perseverance from one day to another. Perseverance has to be built, that tenacity, that mindset, the will to get through things. Do you think that during that time when you were younger, you were building that?
I think I was. It really wasn't until like my 30s that I really started it coming into conscious awareness of the things that I did, that I could
Mhm,
speak to and teach others.
mhm,
And
mhm,
but the traits, those attributes, the things that I presented in the world were
mhm.
definitely developed during that period of time. And it's not like it's that environment's going to build it, though. I mean, it's God, look at this world today. You ask so many people who they are, and they'll tell you this story of, I'm such and such because my alcoholic parents, or I'm the guy with a bad back that's, going to be living this way for, like, they're telling you who they are by the things that have happened to them. And yeah, sure, it sounds like I'm doing the same thing. I use this as people didn't even know my background until I really started writing my book. Even in high school, like, people, they didn't know this stuff because I didn't share it. I use this as a story to articulate how far you can move the needle if you can put this stuff in place. But so many people, their definition of oneself is their environment and the things that have happened to them. And that's not you. You're defined. And the beautiful thing is, every single day, by your choices, your actions, and your responses to those things. So that's the beautiful thing. And it's also the negative thing. There is no, I've done such and such and I can just stop, because now you're done. You could have been a war hero 20 years ago, and you didn't stay strong. You didn't stay resilient. And, there's a car accident and there's somebody inside that's, needs help, and you freeze up and lock up because you don't freaking know how to handle stuff anymore.
100. I mean, and that's one of our our biggest mottos, that we live by in the Man of War here is, look, you know, we don't give a fuck what you've done in the past. We want to know how you are today. I mean, that's the
Yep.
bottom line. We respect your credentials and all that good stuff, but that does not necessarily equal to a high caliber, a next level kind of dude. It just doesn't. I mean, listen, we interview over 1,000 men a month for our crucible. Okay. And I can with 100% certainty tell you that your past background really has very little to do with who you are today. Most
Today.
most of the guys out there that decided at one point or another to make it count, to, hey, you know what, this is what I went through, like yourself, and you helped it build who you are today. And now today you're shining, you're doing good things, you're doing good deeds based on that. That's honorable. But the dudes that say, I already did that, been there and done that, and you go back and you research on who they are today, and you're like, wow, man, this is embarrassing. This is not good enough. It's not good enough for men to say, I've been there and done that. Because in the end, I mean, we've seen them. We even have guys in the crucible drop out, military vets with, from high level
Yeah, it doesn't
programs in the
matter.
military. They drop out after the first or second day. So
It's got to be, it's this practice. I call it the practice of living in, you can't, you're defined by your limits. And so the only way you know who you are is to go out there and be pushing and testing. Walk right up to that fucking edge and peer over it and see
yep,
where it is. Don't
yes,
go past it, but every day you got to go back and see
yes.
where it is, because you're not the same person you were yesterday. You can't fall out of practice of stepping into that place of unknown. I don't know if I can fucking do this. And you need to live in that place, because you never know what's going to come at you in the future. And you
Without
got
a
to be
doubt.
prepared for it.
Without a doubt.
Be
Let's talk
prepared for
about.
going, I don't know.
No, I hear you, and I'm listen. I cannot agree with you any more than that. I mean, we're on point, man. We're looking at life pretty much from the same perspective. Let's talk about commitment and discipline, which I feel like it's a big lacking lacking problem in our society. The lack of commitment and certainly the lack of discipline.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Um, it was funny is one of the people that really taught me this now works for me. Is my old high school wrestling coach back in the early 90s. But he was just brutal, and he could, I don't care about the big picture. I don't care whether you won districts or states or whatever. It's like all the little shit. That's all I care about. When no one's looking and you're running, did you go all the way and touch the line? Did you put every little last cent? Nobody knows whether you drove it there except for you. And it's like those little steps every single day. If you take care of that shit, the big shit will start falling. And people don't have the discipline to do that. They'll take the shortcut. They'll take the easy road out. And that's it is definitely a huge lacking thing in this world. And the commitment thing, people can't even commit to the freaking things that they want in life. It's like this bucket list shit, like, oh, I need to do, and then it's like whatever's fancy and floats in front of you today, I need to do this, I'm going to chase that, and then the next day it's the next flashy thing and you're over here. Guess what? You never move anywhere in life if you live that way.
Oh, no, no doubt, man. I mean, it's really the lack of commitment. I mean, we just, I mean, it's sad to see in our
But
society
yeah,
the lack of commitment. We see men that exactly, you know, they want anything today is that you can put something in front of them today and they're all in. And then all of a sudden tomorrow they're like, ah, fuck that. They're all in the next project or in the next
yep,
thing, and they never get anything done. You know, this is why we have, you know, in our society, these a lot of weak men that walk around like zombies. They don't know where the fuck they're going. They really don't know anything about without any purpose in life. So for me, I don't know if you agree with me, but discipline and commitment kind of tie in very, very tight. And ultimately, if you can somehow integrate those two elements into your life, you may start achieving some type of purpose, some type of why in your life. Um, so let's talk about
well,
purpose. Go ahead.
yeah, I want to play off that for a little
Yeah, go
bit
ahead.
there,
Go
Ruff,
ahead.
if you don't
Yep.
mind. So um this is kind of a business piece that I teach for people to really understand their failings. But is this, we so many people, they're always trying to find the perfect plan, the
Hmm.
perfect business strategy, the perfect thing to
Hmm.
focus on life. They spend 80% of their time constantly like revising it, when you should set it, spend 20% of your time, and then spend 80% of your time evaluating, how well am I executing this? It's not like the plan isn't working, let's shift to a new plan. It's like, let's take, my goal is to, go work out 5 days a week or whatever it is. Your probably goal is to accomplish something, but that's part of the subset here. But it's like, why did you miss those things? Why did you, like, you need to spend time investigating the process and what are the breakdowns and the things that hold you back, so you can sit there and turn around and actually accomplish those things. And if you sit there, and they don't even have to be the right things. I call this the balance, achieving balance through extremes. Like, pick some fucking big gnarly things in life that are actually opposite of each other.
Hmm.
Okay. I'll use I'll use my squat, and then I'll use like work-life balance to articulate these points. If I say, I want you to squat and put every last ounce of effort into it, people will automatically go, forms to the wind, things don't matter. Like, you just balls to the wall, it's going to look like shit, doesn't matter. Or if I say, I want you to go, I want it to be you to chase excellence in movement and form. They go, well, I'm just going to do a body weight or just a plate on the bar and just work till excellence. When actually, I mean, I want both. Both. They're not diametrically opposed things, right? And so if you chase both of those extremes, you end up going further on both sides in this beautiful place in the middle. Because if you don't chase the extreme of load, you can't find where you're going to break down. So you can't perfect. You can't maximize the performance side unless you, you're removing every last energy leak, and you end up in this place in the center that people think is these, diametrically opposites, and you go so much further. You could say the same thing for work-life balance. That's how I live the life I left before. I was bouncing against limits because I was trying to, this framework of, if I give more to work, I'm taking away from family. If I give more to family, I'm taking away, versus now everything is all one. My training is part of what I do. I work harder than I've ever worked in my life, but I spend probably 4 to 5 more hours a day with my family than I ever did before, because every bit of like I've created this environment that draws the people in that I want to be associated with. So where's my friends? Where's my everything? Like all these other things in life. So my point being, when you chase extremes, it makes you really choose what's important in life, because the fluff and the crap has to fall away. It's the only way that you can really find, because the shit that don't matter, there's not going to be room for it. That's
Great
commitment.
points.
Make fucking commitment and just go after those things. Pick a couple of these things and you're going to find whether it really is important to you or not, because you're going to
Mhm.
have to give up other things. But you're going to be able to, man, isn't that a freaking beautiful way to live? Like, that's the way I want to
Without a
live.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Let's talk about fear. All right. And I believe this attacks, in my opinion, fear is a life destroyer for many people. It is a business destroyer, family destroyer, and then personal destroyer. So many people are just not willing to get over it. They're not willing to fight the fear. They're not willing to face certain things. What is your take on fear in our society now, specifically in
Yeah.
our society here?
Um, well, I mentioned this practice of living in fear piece, but truly the ability to step into the unknown is the only way that we really grow as individuals. You've got to be willing to personally do that. You need to be able to help other people accomplish that, because that's the only way you can really discover what's on the other side and who you are. If you know and you've got absolute confidence that you can pull something off, there's no challenge in that. There's no overcoming. There's no, I mean, in essence, this is leadership as a whole. This is in the business environment. It's the difference between managing and leading. If we know the outcomes and we know how to happen, it's not something new. It's not some new experience. There is, it's like I said, it's just managing things versus actually leadership is, there has to be something new. There has to be some unknown component that you don't know how it's going to come across. I don't know that I've got the skills. I don't know that I've got the level of commitment that it takes to pull this off. I don't know. Like, that is that place of stepping up to that edge of the cliff I was talking about earlier, and being willing to do that, and surrounding yourself with people that are willing to do that, expecting that of the people around you and in your organizations. And I get so many. That's just, I challenge people, and it's funny hearing stories from people. I've got to, as they're filming the movie, they've been interviewing people from all the way back into the early '90s and stuff, and it's crazy just the similarities of stories, and like people going, "Yeah, that Chris, he's a fucking pain in the ass, but he sure did." It's like, I'm proud of the fact that every person I've touched in my life, like, I've touched, they know it. And the producer, he told me, he's like, because he's doing all the interviews separately, and I just hear kind of the rundowns, or I follow up with the people later. But he's like, I'm just amazed. He's like, I can't believe I hear the same thing from everybody, because there's people that have flown in from LA, Boston, all over the place, setting up meetings, doing this stuff. And he's like, everybody says anything for Duffin, because you, you're going to have that impact on people if you push them and challenge them to move into this space, because it's going to transform their life. You get somebody to move through this in one area, and next thing you know, it might just be a project that they didn't think that they could take on or whatever. Next thing you know, they're going to night school to get that degree that they wanted, or starting up a business, or moving to another career that they were afraid of moving. Like, this rut of society today, people freaking live this Monday through Friday, living for the freaking weekends. And as they do it, because they're not challenged over the weekend, they're sitting there and they're not engaged with their kids, their wife. They're sitting there drinking a beer, watching the game, just not in. Like, you end up with this freaking, like, life is the screen in front of you. And next thing you know,
Without a
it's
doubt.
50
Yeah.
years have gone by and you haven't done shit. I
Yes.
mean, tell you, get on, that's the good and bad thing of social media. Get on Facebook and go find your old high school friends and look, classmates, and look at who they are and how they've lived. And it's crazy, some of the differences that you'll see. I'm like,
Let's
I can't
let's
even
ride
like,
on that. Let us ride right on that. How important do you think it is to surround yourself with the right people? See, let me elaborate a little bit. People think that the friends that are going to agree with you all the time, that are going to be supportive all the time, that those are the right friends. Unfortunately,
no, no.
no, you got to have
I hate
guys,
this.
people that keep you accountable, man.
You know, and it was funny. There's so many people in like the I call it the hustle porn, the entrepreneur, like people that the ones that drive around and rent their jets and try to sell their coaching businesses, and
Right,
they're
right,
always saying the same thing: "Fuck the haters, remove the naysayers from your life." And I'm like, you're so full of shit.
right.
Like you can surround yourself with some of those non-naysayers and they may be working against you and you don't feel it because it's not words to your face, but they're
Mhm.
looking for the opportunity to hold you back for you to stay in the same spot they are. When I say you develop and live through resilience, I specifically stated something about conflict. So many people, they want to avoid the conflict. They don't, in their life, in their workplace, in their friends, family. You need that. You need people that are going to challenge you. They're going to step up. Like in my company, we have some heated meetings, but it's because we all believe and want to be in the same place, and we actually freaking care. And so, because we have opinions on how we get there, and we care, we're willing to challenge each other on this stuff. And that makes you validate it, and that makes you think through things, and it makes you, if you say that this is the way to go, you're going to step in, you're going to commit, you're going to go after it. Man, this pussification of like trying to remove remove conflict and live in this way is such the antithesis. Like really take a hard look, because I'll bet you some of the people in your life that are positive to your face are actually holding you back at the end of the day. You need to expect more of the people around you and surround yourself with people that expect more of you.
Without a
And
doubt.
that was, again, like one of the reasons that I said I don't recommend. I never wanted to get a divorce. That was not, I'm not proud of the fact that that happened, but I'm
Mhm.
proud of why I did it and what came out the other side, because I needed that as well at home. I needed to be able to, like, somebody that's not trying to say we're comfortable, we're happy, let's just roll, like it, there was no fights ever. It was like living with just a comfortable roommate that never, like pushed you or expected more. Like we're happy. And
Yeah.
it's just not acceptable to me anywhere in life. You need to have passion. You need to freaking drive things forward.
Do you believe this? Do you believe that if you are the smartest guy in the room or the most successful guy in the room, you're in the wrong room?
Absolutely. And I, so many people will not, if you give them, they'll say that, but if you give them the opportunity, they have their own business, they're creating their own team, they'll want to be the big fish. They're afraid to hire people. Let me tell you a story. So when I started when I took over the aerospace company, I came in, I was, I didn't come in directly in the general manager position. I started as the operations manager, reporting to the general manager. And the guy that actually built the company to begin with, like laid out all the processes. He's one of the best guys in the Northwest around here for this type of technical work. And he'd gone off to start his own business, but it was 2008. The economy was crashing, so he came looking for work. And the general manager says, "Hey, Chris, you should look at hiring this guy." And I knew, because I was still new on the job, it was like 6 months in. I knew that he wanted me to hire the guy, and that he was hoping, because I was a high paid guy, that he would end up replacing me. And so I interviewed him, and it was very clear that the guy I was interviewing thought, that I was someone that he was going to come in and he was going to replace me. So I'm sitting there and I hire this guy that wants to take my job. He's got the skills and abilities to actually take my job, and my boss wants him to take my job.
Mm.
I hired him because he was the best man for the job. And I turned around that company with him. I replaced the general manager, rolled into that role. And then like I said, I prepped and sold that company. Then I went to a new organization. And do you know who I hired? The same guy again, because by that point he said, Chris, and it was well in, he came to this point. He's like, after working for me for a couple months, he's like, I see what you do. He's like, I need you to be successful. I know why I failed before. He's like, you're the only person that I've ever felt I could actually work for. But I had to have the confidence. I mean, that's like, who does that? This guy was more skilled than me at the tech. I needed him. I needed him because he had the technical skills in an area in this aerospace industry that I didn't.
Right.
He was better than me in this, but I was confident in what I added and what I could do, and that's fine. And I did that. Who does those sorts of things? And it's what saved 150 people their jobs and got that company saved successfully. And he comes to me today. So that was, I said, 2008, we're 2021. He comes for me to mentoring today. So
Awesome. That's a great story. All right, so let's talk a little.
articulates that point pretty well, though, because
Very,
people
very
don't do
much
that.
so.
Yeah.
But very much so, man. And that's, stories are powerful. Sometimes it's not just talking about a subject, but it's giving, that perspective from happening, you having the experience of actually happening in your life. So that's a great perspective. I want to kind of shift hats here a little bit now, and I want to talk about what methodology or what structure you use in your life to keep you at a level where you're constantly improving, where you are, like you said, pushing yourself to these extremes mentally, maybe physically at times. But, how are you walking that path?
It's it's a deep-seated understanding of who I am and what I want to do in this world. And so it's a practice of constantly digging deeper, asking yourself and peeling back these layers and getting to a point where you get to this understanding of these fundamental things of how you want to live and where you want to be that can't ever actually be achieved. So it's like you could set goals of, I want to live in $1 million mansion and I want this car and I want, like, those things that you can get. But if you're getting to a point of, I want to live because the things that I value and the way that I want to live, why do you want those things? And just keep pulling back constantly. And you get to the spot of, I want to live around these values, and these values for me, it's a sense of accomplishment, challenge. I love recognition, creativity. That was something that I missed in my prior careers that I didn't have. Continual learning. These are just some of them. You'll find you've got like 6, 7, 8 of these like intrinsic things that are just, and your goals are ways of expressing that. So my 1,000-pound squats, that was one way I could live that, my 1,000-pound deadlift. But people go like, what's your next grand goal for lifting? I'm like, well, I don't have grand goals for that anymore. Like right now, my plan is changing the entire face of fitness and its integration with clinical care and all the siloed broken shit. Like, I'm going to change the face of all of this. And it's a massive undertaking. I'm 5 years into this 10-year plan of working this stuff, right? And so you get this, North Star or whatever the hell you want to call it, but it's this place you can always get closer, but you can never actually get there. And that's fine. That's actually the way it needs to be.
That's awesome.
But it takes a lot of deep-seated introspection to get to that point of knowing what and how those things are. And because once you understand that, how can you, if those are your drivers and you're not living those things, You can't accomplish it. You can't go one day, I'm done. And that is who you are as a human being. That is your, and so every aspect, and this is the beautiful thing about like being an entrepreneur or business owner and all this sorts of things, is you can create a life that is an expression of all those things and what you want to do and how you want to live in the world, right? See it, the ultimate form of artwork, in my opinion, right? Live this and create and form the world around you in the way that you want to. But that's a never ending thing. There is no done. There's another step.
I agree. I mean, it's it's a constant cycle. The idea, though, I'm a big believer in growth, right? I mean, the idea is, you know, you're talking about reaching the North Star, and to me, is the actions that are put forth in reaching that extreme, right? Every single day, you're still attempting to touch it, right? It's that
Yeah.
mindset of reaching. It's not just, you know, going out there and saying, yeah, that's my goal. No, fuck that, man. You're stepping up to the plate and you're making that attempt, motherfucker. I'm gonna grab that fucking star today, right? It's that action,
Yes.
that dive, you know, that dives deep into a man's spirit. Now, my perspective in this is, in life, and I don't know if you agree with me here, in life, people in general, okay, they believe that by setting goals, in their mind, you know, that's good enough. You know, I know that in 3 years or 5 years, I want to do this. I want to have a bedroom. I want a house with 4 bedrooms, and I want to be able to drive a Porsche, and I want to be able to. Yeah, guess what? All right. For me, that's a bunch of shit. What's your take on setting goals? And maybe you can give our listeners how you set goals and how you go out there and you crush them.
Yeah. So let's take that exact example. Why do you want those things? Okay. If you don't understand why, like maybe for myself, uh, yeah, I mentioned recognition, accomplishment. Like maybe those are the recognition piece. That maybe that's why I want the Porsche and the house that you mentioned, right? But what if it's the other thing, this other value that I have, which is having security, knowing that I can take care of my family. If you don't understand those deep-seated whys, and you focus on what your goal is, all you know is like, that's what I wanted, I want to go after that. You could over leverage yourself and actually move backwards on the very thing that you actually want. So it's a way of living, not a thing. And so understanding goals are that expression of those. They allow you to create a life that lives and expresses those values, but it could be a whole lot of different avenues that do the same thing. If you say, my goal is to play in the NFL. Why do you want to play in the NFL? Maybe some random Sunday you're playing some tag football and your knee's blown out, your career's over. Is your life goal shot? Not if you know why you wanted to be there. What were those deeper underlying pieces? And I think values maybe is the wrong word, but that's why I list some of the actual things that um, as examples for myself, because once you get there, you can realize there's, oh wow, there's a whole other avenue of stuff that you could chase. Like for me, I don't have to keep chasing a big, massive lift to show people, to inspire them to that they can go and accomplish way more than they ever accomplished. I can do that in other ways. I I can, I can get the piece of having a crazy challenge and something to chase, and recognition for the hard work I've done and those sorts of things. I can get it other ways. So many other goals that I can get, and so that's where I hate this bucket list shit, where people like, you've got to pick my 100 things that I need to do. Like that's just shit that caught your eye. Why did it catch your eye? Because marking that stuff off that list isn't going to do it for you.
Great. That's legit, without a doubt. You know, so let's go into a couple of other things, areas that I've been, you know, that's bothering me a lot in this society. And let's talk about how, for whatever reason, we have turned into a sheep mentality. We've literally just become sheep, right? Everybody follows everybody. There is no more thinking for yourself or finding, the facts about something. It's shit. Most people get their news from memes, on social media, and they act upon that. Unfortunately, I mean, we see that weakness of mind. Shit, I mean, we just saw it now over the last few months. I mean, we've seen that weakness across all facets, and just that sheep mentality, that herd mentality. You know, I have a big problem with that, man. I have a big problem. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to see. And I don't have a good answer for it. I mean, that's why I just try to showcase what I do and how I live across like the social media and stuff that I do, because I'm going to show people like you can just, strike your own path and live in a way that people, would call crazy or whatever they want to do. Like decide who and do the things that you want to do. And in my reflection, I realized I've done exactly what my mom was trying to do all those years when she was living in the woods and raising us there, trying to create this world away from society. She didn't want to be part of this. Everybody lives in and and forging her own path. And I'm like, I created the same thing within the world. Like I'm in my own little bubble. I've got my own environment that I live in and live and breathe all the things that I want to do. And that's uh, so I don't have an answer for you, Rafa, about like
I mean, it's the way that I see it here.
about what it is, other than I can say I just try to walk the walk. I try to show people by I hate. I'm sorry. I've got a major frustration with people that love to just. This is why I reached out to you for the podcast, because I looked at what you do. You you don't just talk this stuff. You're not somebody that lectures on these concepts. You walk the walk, and people need to do that with so many things in their life. And I think that there might be some translation to that, to what we're seeing today in the world. People they want to sit back. It's like this hipster mentality. They want to be able to laugh and, go, oh, look at that try hard. Look at oh, they're failing. Ha ha. Instead of, being willing to step in and do something different and be ridiculed for it. And that's okay, because we all suck at things when we first start going down a path or doing something, different than the norm. People, it's worse now than it's ever been, but that's been out through history, right? And I'd much rather be the person that steps out of the norm and lives the life on their terms than walking that path that everybody else is walking. Being able to sit on the outside and make a meme and ridicule and laugh at the people that are the tryhards, that are out there doing it, that are out there walking the walk.
Without a doubt. And I think that a lot of these keyboard warriors and people that hide behind social media, and it's just and this is, we're getting in our society, we're getting it's getting deeper and worse, where people are just living through social media and becoming
I mean,
people that they are not.
it's so bad that we don't even have to talk about examples. Anybody listening to this knows exactly
Oh,
what's
for
going on in
sure.
the world right now, and they're like,
For sure.
we don't even have to give examples. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. Yeah. So we're gonna end the podcast in a couple minutes, but before we do this, okay, I want you to leave something, that's, originally yours, something that comes from the heart. I want to leave, maybe a message to those that are struggling right now to walk on this warrior's path, to maybe that are, maybe fumbling and stumbling and are maybe fearful, and are just trying to get over that hump right now in life. What can you, give these listeners, some fire from Chris Duffin?
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard when you're in the moment and it's all coming at you and you look so far out there. Like I said, you look at that North Star or wherever it is that you want to be, maybe the goals associated where you want to live, and you're like, that's so freaking far away, right? I can never get there. And if some kid with toes sticking out the side of his shoes, living by a creek in the wilderness, can do what I've done in the world by sitting there every day and just focusing on the actions of what I can do today and move a little bit forward. You may not feel those big wins right now, but they start stacking up, because if you want those big wins, you want to change the world. This isn't something that happens overnight, despite what they tell you on social media and everywhere else in the world today. It happens over the course of decades. The wins are going to happen. They're going to start falling in place, and people are going to say, man, that things just fall your way, don't they? And that's not the case. They're not going to see the thousands of little steps that you took across the way. This is your time that you're going to be telling your stories about in the future. If you don't have this time and you don't live this period in your life, was it really worth it?
That's awesome, man. Good stuff right there. All right, for our listeners, where can they follow you on social media? Also, the name of your book, and where can they purchase that?
Yeah. So name of the book is The Eagle and the Dragon. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, on Audible as well. If you go to my site, chrisduffin.com or christopherduffin.com, there's a free actual Audible download. If you don't have an Audible account, you can sign up and you can get it and one other book. Or if you got an account, just it's a credit, whatever. There's also links to all my websites there if you're interested in the physical nature of things. We make the best biomechanically sound equipment in the world at Kabuki Strength, coaching and education, minimalist shoes, barefoot athletics, and my supplementations that I do is with Build Fast Formula. Links for all that's there. Social media, I mean, just type my name in. I mean, come on, people, you got the internet at the tip of your fingers. I'm the person with the little blue check there when you type in Chris Duffin. It's like muffin, but with a D. All right. Pretty easy to find. So the places that I interact on most is Instagram and LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn sounds a little funny, but you think about all the professionals that I work with in both the clinical space and collegiate and pro teams. That's the reason I'm on there. But you can find me on Facebook and God, Twitter, not so much. I just can't work in the 140 character medium for some reason. I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
I got you. All right, man. Listen, Chris, it's been an honor to have you on. Very powerful, impactful conversation. For those listening, remember, it's not just about listening, but it's about integrating it into your own life. Take some of the tools, some of the, stories that Chris, brought to the table, and start, using it in your own life, man. That's what we're changing, lives right now. So, Chris, again, thank you for having, for you being on my show here on the Man of War podcast. I would love to welcome you back soon enough to have another conversation. Say the name of your book one more time.
The Eagle and the Dragon.
The Eagle and the Dragon. Go buy this guy's book, man. Some legit stuff there for sure. All right, Chris, thank you for being on, brother.
Thank you.